All right, guys. Hi there. Welcome to this edition of Healing Theology. I am actually running this video on both channels, so this should be interesting. I'm going to try to stay focused so it doesn't seem like I'm going back and forth. But I am so excited to record this for people who can't join live. It'll be there and you can watch it whenever. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. I am so excited to talk about issues of surrounding identity. And so why is that important? Because for many of us who are middle-aged and going through a lot of change, it becomes a topic of importance. It becomes important, right? You get smacked in the face with who are you really? And so if you've had a son or daughter or a relative graduate recently, or you've suffered a death or a loss, it could be divorce, empty nesters, lots of change, even if it's new change, like a new baby, a new marriage, and things like that. Our identity comes into question, right? You begin to wonder, who am I in this situation? Because I've never been in this situation before many times. So it's new. And so life leaves us wondering, who are we really? Okay. And so people sometimes, I think, define themselves by what they do or their role. Okay. And hold on, I just ran into some difficulty here. So your role sometimes, people identify themselves by their role. Okay. It could be a job. It could be something that you're doing. And your role as a mother and as a wife, which is great, except for those things change. And if they change before you're ready, sometimes you're wondering, who am I now that I am not Mrs. So-and-so? Or who am I now that I'm, Madison no longer needs me as she did when she was 10. Now I go from being a disciplinarian to an advisor in her life, right? Because my role is changing. So, I'm interested in getting feedback, even from you guys. I know with myself, I've gone through a number of changes here in the last 4 or 5 months. And identified with some things that I had been a part of for over 16 years. Being in Second Wind, working in nonprofit work, higher education, being a manager. So I identified with a lot of different things, and it's unsettling when you shift to a new environment and you're trying to sort of see, where am I really and who am I? So I think that a very empowering position to be in is when your identity is informing the role that you're in versus the other way around. Because if your role changes, you could be lost in the sauce, right? Like, you will really be wondering, who the heck am I? And so some of the questions like people have asked me are, so what are you going to do? And I feel like what they're really asking me is, who are you going to be now? Who are you going to be now that you're not singing in this band? Like, I'm going to be Myra. And so I get it, because branding identity is not the same as life identity. Branding identity is the image that people want you to, that they portray. And so because social media is so prevalent and we're so good at it, we can project whatever image we want to in social media. Okay. And so if you believe that hype, right, you will really be confused as fans, as people watching people who have notoriety or are famous, into believing their branding is who they are. The biggest the biggest question and issue is if you are a person with some kind of, you've built your life around an identity and you don't know who you are, when you begin to believe your own hype and think that what you do, your branding identity, is your personal identity. And so we've seen it in people like, oh man, there are a couple. The two people who come to mind right now is like Amy Winehouse and Phyllis Hyman. Like, a lot of people really didn't understand, why would people who have so much money and fame and they're doing what they love, why would they kill themselves? Like, what the heck is that? Vesta Williams comes to mind too. Well, for some people, and Whitney Houston, right? So what some people don't get is branding identity is great. And when you're promoting a product, but a product isn't necessarily your person. You have to know, especially as an artist, or if you're going to do anything that requires public scrutiny or put you out in public, you've got to know who you are, because it ebbs and flows too much. People like you one day, the next day they don't. People, you are their favorite brand of washing powder, the next day they like something different. If your identity is wrapped up into what you do like that, you are going to be on a roller coaster, because you're not going to know who you are, the value of you as a person on the earth, right? And so a lot of times these famous artists that we've seen, I think there's clinical depression too, right? That's a real thing. But it's also identifying more with their career, and when it tanks or they're forced to be alone by themselves, they are lost and go into a depression. That's real. That is real. And so, coming from a very small microcosm of notoriety in Second Wind, relatively speaking, like, a lot of people have seen Second Wind. I'm not downplaying what we built over the years. However, there are lulls in the schedule, right? There are lulls in performing time. Sometimes you're booked quite a bit and sometimes you're not. The difference in how we all handle those times is based on what other things you have going on, your other roles in your life. So for me, I was the only mother in the group, and that made it, I was very sure of my mother role and how my child needed me in a lot of different capacities. So Second Wind was a part of my life, but it was not my whole life, okay? And so, but if you aren't sure of the things that you value and your sense of purpose, it can leave you feeling really off when things are unfamiliar, especially when your identity is tied to the things on the outside and not things that are on the inside. So the other thing I wanted to mention is, so if you're feeling a sense of identity theft, we're not talking about like credit cards or when somebody steals your identity on social media and they keep friending a whole bunch of people. So we're not talking about that. But when life takes a turn, right? And for some of us, it's called a midlife crisis, fellas. And you wonder, do you still have it? And men go out and buy these big red Corvettes and start dating women 15 years younger than them. It's oftentimes because we are not embracing the life change that is happening and being willing to adapt to the new normal. Okay? So if you're going to try to hold on with a death grip to your 20s and you are 55, your knees will wake you up and let you know you are a different person. You're not the same person, sweetie. Your identity is changing. If you've ever been the old person in the club, you realize very quickly your identity is changing. You have gone from being the hot commodity to the auntie or the uncle. It's just a part of life. It is a part of life that we sometimes have to embrace, or if you're going to be in a healthy place, you have to embrace it. So, to all of my career changers, people who've experienced a lot of loss, I totally get that foods with your identity and you're on a journey of rediscovery. Here's the upside and the good side. You can reinvent yourself without the pressure of being who you used to be. You don't have to be who you used to be. You just have to tap into who you are now. What is it that you value now? Some people may have always known you for liking red apples. But guess what? With life changes, you can decide, I don't like red apples anymore. I like green apples, and I like them cut up, and I like them in a ball. And so people from your life who've only known you one way will be like, well, no, you really like, no, you've always liked things that way. Well, as we age and get older, we earn the right to reinvent ourselves and to identify with things that are closely associated with our value system. And sometimes people don't know that. And like I said, there's a difference between branding identity, the image you project into the world, versus who you really are. And where we sometimes fall into depression or get in trouble is when we don't know the difference between the two. So it's really, really important to spend that time understanding who you are, so that when those big ripples in life happen and when there are big life changes, you can withstand that tempest. When the waters are really becoming big and they're flaring up, you don't have to roll with those punches and be on a roller coaster, because you are centered and grounded and know who you are. And so with the things that all the change I've gone through recently, moving to a completely different state, living with my parent again, an aging male parent who used to be an engineer. Let me be real specific. A linear thinker, and I'm a free spirit. My child is going away to school, going back. So our distance will separate us. So my role as her mother is changing to becoming more of an advisor. So if she wants to wear really short shorts and I say, I really don't think you should, she could say, thank you for your opinion. I'm gonna wear them anyway. My role is changing. What the heck? I used to have all this control. Now I don't. I'm advising her now, right? Like, here are the reasons. I have to convince you of why this may not be a good choice, and then she makes the choice. So when all of these changes happen, our identity changes. So I was watching a friend of mine who has a YouTube channel, and I love this definition of narcissism. She says, narcissism is being so insecure that you have to formulate a completely false version of yourself in order to live with yourself. Now let that marinate for a second. I'm going to read it again. Being so insecure that you have to formulate a completely false version of yourself in order to live with yourself. The thing is, social media gives us an opportunity to do that. We could create any illusion we want to. And people love to dream big. I'm not saying don't dream big, but there's a difference between dreaming big and being disillusioned about life and about who you are. Because that gets into tricky territory, especially with depression and feeling if you don't get enough affirmation, right? So there are some people who want you to believe they don't need it, but without that affirmation, constant approval, without constantly being number one or acknowledged for something they've done for a long time, locating themselves can be very, very difficult. And it can even shock you as a person that why am I feeling this way? Well, because if you've projected a false image and have a false sense of security, when those house of cards fall, you're not going to know what to do. This is reminding me of even the people in Dayton, right, who have lost Some people have lost everything that they have. And so the difference between, and it's all devastating, right? It's all bad, because I can't think of another more articulate big word, but it's bad, right? And it can leave you feeling completely lost and unsettled, to lose all of your possessions. But if you watch people who have endured this very same experience, their reactions are different. People whose identity is not tied up in what they own or have are okay, because they know, as the originator of something, or being connected to source or God, they know they can reproduce things. Things are not defining who they are. Things are just, they can recreate something. I could buy another ball. I can get a job, get another ball. It could be a different color, but I can replace things. Okay? People whose identity is tied to things, though, feel like there's no reason to live. And so if you have followed people who have been very involved in the stock market and lose up all of their money, I'm not saying this isn't devastating, but that's the difference between somebody who knows they can bounce back because they're solid in themselves. They know who they are. If you are an originator of something, then you can recreate it, right? So while I'm preaching good, if somebody steals an idea that you have, don't be offended, because competition is an illusion. As the creator and the originator of something, then you can recreate something else. It's not the only big idea you're going to have, right? I used to become really frustrated sometimes if I would share something with people. And because I am shy by nature, people don't believe it, but I've evolved from having a social anxiety disorder. But when I would share ideas with people and they would go do it, I would be so frustrated. More frustrated with myself because I wasn't extroverted, confident enough to put my idea out there. So I would share it intimately with people that I trusted and then watch them go do it and get mad. Well, one of the things I had to learn and that God worked with me on is, well, baby, if you're the originator of it, come up with something else. You're full of ideas and creativity because I've made you creative. Creativity is part of my identity. I am creative all day, every day, every day. It could be with food. I can't tell you how many times I have asked Madison, what is there to eat? And she'll say nothing. And I'm like, that can't be true. And I can look at the same refrigerator and see 5 meals, because that's the way I'm wired. I'm just very creative. There's all, by Myers-Briggs standards, I am an INFP. I'm borderline INFP or ENFP, which means that an ending can change each time, and I'm intrigued by it. Like, the ending changed. That's so good. But if you have a very strong need for order and things need to be a certain way and in a certain place, that will frustrate the shit out of you. I totally get it. But because I understand that I am creative, I am resilient. I find something to like, love, or be happy about each day at some point. I could start a day off really down, and then in 2.2 seconds be excited again because I've originated a thought. I've originated something that I'm like, that is a good idea. So I understand those things are part of my identity. I'm an empath. That's also part of my identity. I think about others, the world. I am curious about it. I'm concerned about it. I want people to feel better. And so I understand sort of what I bring to the table. And I've used this analogy before too. The difference between me and, I'll just use my bandmates because that was my experience for so long, is that everybody loves music. However, as an artist who likes to create music, as a songwriter, music is a form of expression, right? It's a creative form of expression. Being a performer is something different. being a performer is sometimes a need for attention. It's not, I want to express my deepest thoughts, and so I wrote this song about love, and right? And now that's not it. So there's a difference sometimes between being an artist and expressing your art through your vocal gift or musician or painting or something like that. And then, but sometimes when we want, sometimes can be a different need. Okay. And so even if a person isn't in that platform anymore, there's still going to be that need to perform. It could be on a job. How many times do our kids act up at school? They perform because they crave attention, right? That's what we tell them. Like, you are acting out because you're craving attention. And so, you know, the ability to recreate yourself frees you from those limiting beliefs that sometimes other people put on you and that you put on yourself. You can reinvent yourself. And you can identify most, I would say, with what you believe, your belief system. And if your beliefs are too limiting, then I encourage you to unravel those things and give yourself some margin to be different and to do something different. And that, to me, is literally one of the major steps for what to do when there are issues of identity, or you're really struggling to find out who you are and what you, not even what you want to do, but who you are. Okay, so I just wanted to have that brief conversation. Was it brief? Was it too long? I'm working on not making these too long. But meditation also is a good practice. Prayer is a good practice if you to center yourself and ground yourself. Because you can truly be at home anywhere. I feel displaced right now. Hi, King. This is my doggy nephew. Hi, baby. I have this is my doggy nephew, King. I just love King. Oh, Lord have mercy. Y'all know King is part of my narrative. I love some King. Anyway, here's the thing. I am in a place right now. I've never not lived in Cincinnati. I've never been had to go live with somebody else. It's different. And so these are things that I literally have gone through, am going through, where it's like, okay, so when I feel most at home, when I feel most settled and grounded, what am I doing? And it's usually working on some creative project. Could be music, it could be this. When I am encouraging other people, I feel great. I feel like myself. So if you're looking for things that help you feel grounded, that make you, that ground you, if you all of a sudden have a sense of anxiety about something, things that can ground you is really knowing who you are, right? What makes me feel comfortable in this environment? What can I do that makes me, that it will never change, regardless of my outside and changing inside? I'm going to find something to be happy about. That's just Myra. Even if I start my day down, I'm going to connect with something. It might be an ice cream cone. But I'm laughing because that is too true. But I'm going to connect with something that makes me smile and makes me happy. I refuse to be sad all day. I just can't do it. I wasn't made that way. I'm going to find a way to encourage other people. There is a thing called helper's high. It's a psychological term. Whenever we become too preoccupied with ourselves, that means we oftentimes need to go help somebody else. It will change the cellular structure of your brain and make you feel better about yourself. So those narcissists, and we have really stigmatized this word, but we all have narcissistic tendencies at times. We all want to be affirmed. We all want people to like us. How many likes did I get? That's just sort of the social media thing we're at now. But like yourself, you got to like yourself in order to live with yourself, or you are going to be sad and depressed. Go ahead, King. You're going to be sad and depressed a lot. You know what? The cameras aren't always going to be on. So So, these artists like Amy Winehouse and Phyllis Hyman and Michael Jackson and Whitney Houston, and it goes on, lived in a prison because they could not live up to the hype they had created in their branding. That wasn't their true identity. And so why put that pressure on yourself to create an expectation that neither you can live up to and that people are going to be disappointed? Be your authentic self. If you don't live in a mansion, you just don't live in one. And why do we all have to live in a mansion? Why is that of such a value for people? So, my advice is set yourself free from limiting beliefs about who you have to be. Set yourself free from the expectations of other people. Just because you did something for 25 years doesn't mean you have to do it for another 25 years. Okay? You get the opportunity to be who and what you want to be and do what you think your life purpose is. You earn the right to do that. And even if you go through this process every day, so what? It's your life. Every day, if you need to meditate and decide which person am I going to be, then that's your business. And that is incredible. And if it brings you joy and it brings you peace and it brings peace and joy to other people, then it could be your life purpose. Okay, so I just wanted to put that out there because some of us have a lot of changes. There have been deaths in our family that make us feel lost. We could be empty nesters. Our kids are leaving, and we're on this journey of rediscovering who we are by ourselves without functioning in a role. If that role is taken away, and it takes courage, you guys, to function outside of what you've always known. It takes courage to see who you are in a fresh environment, a new situation where there's nobody but you and God. Sometimes for people that's jail, God forbid. But it is. Like there are people who they develop the biggest sense of who they are when they're in isolation. And that's why meditation is so good. Take yourself off the hamster wheel, find a grounded place, and know what's solid for you so that in any environment you're in, you can find peace and you can feel at home and you can feel like I've got this. I may not understand all the changes going on around me. That certainly is my testimony. I don't get it all yet. But what I do know is that I am creative. I am resilient. I get down a little bit, but I find something that picks me up right away. It doesn't last long. It could be a song. It could be a shiny necklace. I like shiny things. I know me very well. And so other people not necessarily accepting me doesn't matter as much when I love and accept myself. So I just want you guys I wanted to offer something to you as I'm on this journey of rediscovering who Myra is in a very different environment with my child going away, no longer being a child, being a 21-year-old young woman, living with an aging parent who is a linear thinker. And I'm a free spirit, trying to do entrepreneurial things, having always supported other people. I've always supported other people. I promise you, number 2 was my number because I was always assisting, buying into somebody's vision. My role, let me just go into this just really real quick and I'm going to end this. I have been on the board of a homeless shelter, helping other people. My passion is for others. It really is. I got a community thing about me. Okay. So seeing other people empowered, that's a thing. Okay. I have been on several committees in Middletown, helping put together cultural arts things. I have been a judge in several talent shows. I have been a manager in workforce development. I have been a singer. I have been a worship leader. I have been a solo artist. I've been part of a group. I've been a songwriter. I have been so many different things. I have been So many different things. But what I do know is that when all of those roles change, inside I'm still me. I'm still Myra. I still value healthy things, healthy relationships. I'm intolerant of toxicity. Even if I allow myself to be there longer than I should, I eventually wiggle my way out with God's grace. Because that is what I value. I understand what I value. I understand what means the most to me. And the older that I get and realize there are fewer years ahead of me than behind me, I start prioritizing in a way that brings me peace and where I can leave a legacy of hope for people and say that I lived my life, doing my life purpose, helping other people get through life, because it gets tricky, complicated, and scary. And so if there is anything that I can do to make that easier for other people while wearing a shiny hat, then that is what I'd like to do. And with that said, you guys, I love you. God bless you. Make it a marvelous day. Don't let anybody steal your joy. Don't apologize for being who you are. And go and get that centered sense of identity. I love you guys. Have a great day.